It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
And Les Webster.
Hello, all.
Unfortunately, Liz could not be with us this week. She is feeling under the weather, but we hope that she gets better real soon, and hopefully will join us again next week.
Yeah, hopefully she'll be back next week.
Yeah. So, how are you guys doing?
Delightful.
Okie doke.
Okay. I hope everybody out there...
You just don't even believe us at all anymore, do you?
No.
I don't blame you.
I'm thinking of Airplane, where the sequence, the little advisory saying unbelievable bullshit, so, but I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner, Galaxy?
Well, other than picking on both you and Liz already in this show, in this one, geez. Yeah, I guess Les is next. I don't know. We'll see.
Yay!
Yeah, lucky you, right? So I'm gonna flash back a little bit more than just this week. Because no, please God, no, anything but that. Oh, my kid loves playing that just because he knows it drives me nuts. Because I can't stand it. But speaking of my kid, so I've mentioned before that I have spent some time over the last, honestly, couple of years, playing an online game called Dungeons and Dragons Online. And for a while, I had this little shadow sitting over, watching me over my shoulder play this game. And so not that long ago, fairly recently, in the last month or so, I guess, maybe a little longer, but somewhere in there. Anyway, I finally went ahead and signed up my 13-year-old son with an account for this game. And so he's been having just an absolute blast. I think mostly just sort of, in a way, torturing me. I think he's mostly not doing it to actually torture me, but I also think he doesn't have a very good sense of what I consider torture. So, that's okay, I guess. But yeah, he and I have been kind of enjoying playing this game together for a little while. Not a terrible long time, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm kind of sort of walking him through some of the lower level stuff and showing him kind of how to deal with certain aspects of the game and kind of helping him through the character creation process and all that stuff. And he seems to be enjoying it, and it's kind of fun kind of showing him the ropes and stuff. So, you find ways to have fun with your kid while he still cares.
Right.
Because he's, like I said, he's 13 now, and eventually he's going to stop caring. So, at least for a little while. I'm told that they start caring again after they move out and have to have bills of their own. But, it's all good.
That's when they find out Dad was the smartest man alive.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool, though. I, on the other hand, have been finding channels on Netflix and Amazon Prime. I found where I can watch the seasons of Eureka, and I've fallen into that. I just loved watching the dumb character being the one to save the day every week. I think that's a lot of fun. And they have some star actors on that even guest appearances. So it's been fun. And I just get so wrapped up in series now. It's kind of scary because the wife is wondering why I won't go out, and, why there are mushrooms growing around me, things like that.
Yeah, Eureka was actually kind of a fun little show. I don't remember how it ended because, to be honest, it wasn't actually me that was watching it. It was my wife. But you walk through and you catch something and you see somebody you recognize, like you said, there are a lot of guest stars, a lot of really cool ones. And so you'd see somebody you recognize and you sit down and start watching the rest of the show. And so I ended up watching quite a bit of it that way. And I mean, you called the sheriff a dumb guy. He wasn't dumb. The deal is that everybody else was a genius.
Right.
And so, there's probably a parallel. I'm not thinking of it off the top of my head, but another story that was like that. But yeah, I mean, the deal is he's the guy. Everybody around him is this like wild thinker. I mean, just brilliant minds in their own ways. His brilliance was in his ability to just sort of go do stuff. I mean, he was the guy. I mean, everybody else, there's always somebody coming up with a plan for him. But he was the guy. He was the crash test dummy of the show. Basically, you put him out there, and he would run over there, and he would do the thing that needed to be done. He would go shut off the power to the Uzi What's Its grid that would stop the hyper intelligent AI from taking over the world, or he would have to go save the world from, because there was this tiny little town, but it had this huge super science lab basically underneath it, and so he would have to go in there and save things all the time. It was a really well performed and well written show, I thought.
And well, I haven't got to it yet, but there is the section where they travel back in time and are under the oppression of the Nazis.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. I was sitting there thinking, back in time? What? Oh, yeah, I do remember that. I don't remember seeing all of it, but I remember seeing parts of it.
I'm kind of looking forward to that part of it to see what I did miss.
Yeah, that was a sci-fi original, wasn't it?
I think
Yes,
so.
it was. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, for me, just been doing a lot of research for upcoming episodes, and not a whole heck of a lot. We did have our monthly meetup, which was fun. Wes was there.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. It was nice seeing those who came out. And speaking of which, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, every second Saturday of the month, for those of you that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you like to come hang out with us and have some good food and have some great conversations about anything that's going on in the geek universe, we do have what we call a meet and gab. And for February, it will be Saturday, February 8th at 7 p.m. And we'll be meeting at Wing City, which is located at 1456 Beltline Road, and that's in Garland, and the zip is 75044. If you go to the website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks, and go to our events tab, there's all the information there. We also have a Facebook event set up already. So if you want to come meet us and hang out, you're more than welcome. And we're also taking donations for comic books for kids. And if you're not familiar with this is a charity who gives comic books out to kids who are in hospitals and cancer centers. We've teamed up with them, try to make sure these kids have something to brighten up their day since they are dealing with health issues. We are looking for all ages to teen books, new or like new, because these are going to hospitals, so they can't be really old, musty, and that kind of thing. So if you'd like to donate to the charity, we would be happy to accept them on their behalf and get it to them. Or if you want to send them directly to them or make a financial contribution to the charity, we do have that information on our website as well. It's located under the CB4K tab, or you can just do www.cb4k.org, and there's all the information on the charity, how to donate. They do have a PayPal account there that you can donate funds. They have a store page where you can buy some of the comics that have variant covers that are exclusively for the charity, and all the proceeds go to them, which helps ship the books across the United States and Canada. And they also offer coloring books that have original art from some of the big names in the comic industry of it. So just go check them out and help out if you can. Like I said, the next meetup will be Saturday, February 8th at 7 p.m. So we would love to see you there. All right. For this week, we are joined by a longtime friend of the Fellowship. You may remember we've had him on. It's been a while back. Carl Gold, formerly of Sci-Fi FX Podcasts. We had him on to talk about the new showrunner for Doctor Who and speculation on who the new Doctor will be, and obviously we already know that by now. But since we've got one season or one series underneath the belt and a new series has started up, we figure we would have him on, bring him back on, and kind of go over his thoughts about how things have gone so far, and just all things Doctor Who related. So with that, we present our Doctor Who Roundtable. And we're joined by our good friend Carl Goad, who's a longtime friend of the Fellowship, former part of the Sci-Fi FX podcast. Are those shows still up around somewhere? I haven't tried to look in a while.
I believe they still are. As far as I know, they're still available on iTunes and all fine podcatchers everywhere.
There you go. I have to go check that out. We've known Carl for a long, long time. Matter of fact, I think Sci-Fi FX kind of influenced Fellowship, and I think Fellowship's done the same thing for them.
Oh yeah,
because I met you through the monthly meetups having up at Delayed Store Comic Craze. Y'all were doing kind of sci-fi meetups and that kind of thing, which that's something we kind of incorporated with our meeting gaps. But and that was about the time we were kind of talking about doing, or we were kind of coming up with the Fellowship. And then I don't want to say this kind of like I'm kind of a brag or anything, but was our webcast kind of the inspiration for y'all doing the podcast? Or was that something y'all were already talking about?
No, I believe we'd already actually started just a little bit before you guys started the webcast.
Okay.
Our first podcast was actually a review of the Matt Smith's first Christmas special in 2010.
Well, our first webcast was in October of 2010. So
you guys beat us by a couple months then, yeah.
Okay, so not by much. So okay.
Clearly, we were a big influence too about that, because he can't even remember we started our. Never mind. Anyway, just kidding.
Well, I mean the webcast, but the podcast. I mean, oh my God, yeah.
You beat us by years on that one.
Yeah, definitely. So.
Yeah, we had been talking about it for a while, but we decided we would kick it off with the review of the Christmas episode on Boxing Day. So
there you go. So, Carl, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, technically.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah,
before,
right.
Welcome
back. Yeah,
been a little
Glad
while.
to be here. It's been a couple of years, but yeah.
Right. Kind of wanted to bring you back because you're kind of our resident Doctor Who expert, and with the new series starting up, kind of want to get your thoughts and feelings about the previous series and the new Doctor and the new showrunner, Chris Chibnall. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, Chibnall. Yeah.
Yep. And kind of just get your thoughts about where things are going, and just kind of talk all things Doctor Who.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first off, what do you think of Jodie?
I'm liking her. I think she's got an interesting take on the Doctor, and I particularly like the fact that she doesn't always immediately know what's going on. Things are actually a surprise to her, and I like that. I don't particularly like it when the Doctor always knows exactly what's going on or always what the creatures are that they've run into because he's met them before.
That does get kind of old.
Yeah. I mean, it means there's still stuff out there new to the Doctor. And we're not just, going through his repeats again, basically.
Right. Guys, your thoughts on Jodie?
Oh, us?
Okay. I for one, am very impressed. I think that Miss Whittaker is carrying it off. She does give a new feel to it, something that makes you sit up and take notice. The shock in her face at times when something new arrives, like I have already said, is fascinating to me. This is a Doctor now my wife really enjoys, and she has missed everything since probably Tom Baker.
Oh, wow.
Wow,
so
that's a bit of a jump, yeah.
This has made her turn and go, hey, this is kind of fun. And her companions are pretty strong characters, too. Because the interaction between the stepfather and stepson is kind of nice, or step-grandson.
Yeah.
Is really cool. So I applaud them. I thought this was a good move for them in probably all aspects. So kudos.
Okay. I like her. There is the awe that y'all both have mentioned. Is it me, or does she seem more animated than the previous several Doctors, or is that am I?
She seems to be much more excited.
Okay.
When she's encountering things, yeah, I get what you're saying. She bounces around a little more. She's more excited. She's got that little flair when she uses the sonic screwdriver, how she kind of flings it out at full arm's length. And,
yeah.
I get what you're saying, and I kind of like that. I like that she gets excited about things.
Yeah. And you kind of pointed on something, Les, that it's kind of nice we haven't had in a while, is the fact that we have more than one companion. So so when the Doctor's off on something else, then you've got the companions kind of moving the story and kind of interacting with each other instead of just the solo. And that's kind of nice having that dynamic back. I like that too.
Yeah. I agree with that for sure.
Competent companions are nice.
And I definitely agree with that. It harkens back to the original TARDIS team, right, where you had the Doctor and 3 companions, and it allows you, especially when you have a bigger story like the season opener this year, where you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do one thing, and the other 2 companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do one thing, and the other 2 companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do one thing, and the other 2 companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and do another thing, and you can have the Doctor and one of the companions go off and have a completely separate adventure that kind of ties back into it.
Right.
You have bigger stories and a bigger world that way. And yeah, competent companions is always handy. I mean, like, Yaz is a probationary police officer, right? So she, I don't know if we want to get into talking about the actual season opener just yet, but I mean, you know, she jumps at the chance there to do a little bit of undercover spy work.
Oh, we can discuss it a little bit. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks.
Have you guys seen it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Did you all see today's episode?
Have not seen today's episode.
Okay. So I know where my limits are.
Right. Yes, I've seen parts 1 and 2 of Spyfall. Yes.
I've seen part 1 of Spyfall like 3 times at this point.
Okay.
Part 2 twice. And part of that's because I went to the Fathom event where they showed both of them back to back.
Okay.
Oh.
And then they had a live Q&A session with the cast afterwards, except for Bradley Walsh. He wasn't in attendance. But they were in New York for the premiere, and you could tweet your questions, and they would answer them. And did any of y'all see that?
No.
No.
That was one of the best parts of that, and it's in relation to the episode that aired tonight, episode 3, Orphan 55, where they're talking about how the monsters in that are like the scariest monsters they've ever seen in Doctor Who, and they were proper terrified when these things came on set. And Jodie even mentions that they had to like stop filming and be like, we're sorry, but can you cut back on the screams some? We think the Doctor would handle this better.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the season opener this year. A nice big 2-parter, return of a classic villain. I mean, it's only been 4 stories since we've seen her. But it's nice to have him back. I think the casting they did for him was phenomenal.
Definitely.
And I think Sacha Dhawan did a great job playing the Master. And I can definitely see this more as a direct evolution from the Roger Delgado, Anthony Ainley progression than I could the Sims and Missy branch there. I think this is a better take on the Master than we've had since the show's been back, basically.
Yeah, I was talking to Les a little bit about this last night, and what's your take about him being back, considering what happened the last time we saw the Master?
Well, I mean, it's not like it's the first time we've seen him definitely killed, and then he pops back up later.
That's been brought up several times too. Yes, I've seen.
This is a fairly normal thing for him. I mean, you guys are hardcore comic book fans, right? It's not uncommon for the Joker to die and then pop back up later and have a How I Survived story, right? Whether or not it's the truth of what happened or not.
Or not even be told what happened. He just shows up, and then it's never addressed.
Exactly. I mean, they've burnt him to a crisp. They've shrunk him down. I love the fact that they brought back the tissue compression eliminator. That is fantastic. I pretty much cheered when that thing showed up. Because I have seriously missed that. And one of the last times we see him in the classic series, you know, he had been shrunk down in Planet of Fire because he said he was working on a more efficient, deadlier version. And this version shrinks him down. In the new Skyfall, the new tissue compression eliminator shrinks them down way smaller than they used to be and a whole lot faster. So it's a linear progression from what he was doing back then too. So like I said, it really kind of fits in with the classic series Master a lot better than what we've had before.
Well, something else that I caught that kind of harkens back to classic Doctor Who was the whole telepathic communication.
Yes.
That the Doctor had with the Master, with the contact, and then they start talking.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool to bring that back.
Yeah, that was really good. And I mean, there were quite a few things in here. I love how they had the whole first half of Spyfall was basically kind of a riff on a James Bond movie, right?
Right.
And they even had the James Bond style music when they're going to the party and everything, and all the spycraft stuff and everything there. It was a whole lot of fun. And then they had the amazing reveal of the Master at the end of the episode. Which, when did you guys cue in that it was the Master? That O was the Master?
Well, I was talking about this to Les last night. I didn't cue in it was a Master, but I figured there was something more to what he was saying during the sequence where he was talking to the step-grandfather. I can't remember.
Graham.
Yeah, Graham. And he points behind him to this shelf of all the books that are on the Doctor. I'm like, how does he have that much information? I mean, I know he's working for MI6, but come on. I was like, there's something more to this. Maybe I should have picked up. Yeah, who else would know more? But maybe there was clues that I missed earlier in the episode. But when we got to that point, that was flags everywhere. I just couldn't piece it together further than that. But I knew something was up. How about you?
Well, I mean, the first obvious flag is when he first tells him, if these are alien spies, we should be looking for the Spy Master. But I didn't actually I knew there was something up with him, that he wasn't who he said he was, but it didn't trigger to me that it was the Master until they were on the plane, and she says, "Wait, I read your file. You were a champion sprinter," because he tells him he's not good at sprinting,
right?
And he does that little eye twitch thing, like he's reviewing his own personal history and his cover story, and that's when it triggered for me. I was like, "Oh no, that's the Master." And then he tells him to look out the window, and you see the flying house, and then it's kind of obvious at that point.
Right.
So I just barely clued in right before it actually is obvious. So I considered that to be an excellent reveal, since I didn't know 20 minutes ahead of time.
Right.
There was enough there that I figured it out 10 seconds before they told me, basically.
That's always good.
Yeah, I consider those to be the best reveals.
That's when you can stand up and yell, "I got it, I understand." And then they do a reveal and you go, "Oh, okay."
And then his just kind of, he goes from being suave to manic and then back to suave, just on this, snap of a finger, basically.
The character is strong in this one.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but I did not understand who the dimension or time people were. I did not catch their name. And it was bothering the hell out of me.
Oh, I'm trying to remember what they called them. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, that's of no consequence, because I would say they will probably show up again in this season. Which would be something I would like to see.
Yeah, that would be my guess. But then again, it wouldn't be the first time that, Doctor Who, that they bring something like that up and deal with it, and then it's never addressed again.
Yes, that's right.
Part of what I like about the show, really, is that not everything is explained all the time.
It's not generally needed.
Yeah.
I don't need to be spoon-fed everything.
Exactly.
So I like the idea of making me think a bit. Although that puts me in a coma at times.
Yeah, it's one of those fun reminders that this is not American television. This is British television. It's a little different over there. And sometimes in a good way, it's different.
I looked on demand today to see the Graham Norton show with Jodie Whittaker on there. And if you get a chance, it's really amusing to watch, with Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jodie Whittaker. Musical was Henry Styles, and the last guest they had introduced before the music number was Michael Palin.
Ooh.
So you had some really big names up there.
Is this a recent episode?
Yes, it was just before Christmas.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, there's a few. That's where they give her the gold record for her performance on that Children in Need album. Was that episode, or was that a different one that I'm thinking of?
It's a different episode.
Okay.
This was a kind of to let everybody know that the Doctor returns in 2020. That she could hold her own against the comedians up there. It was kind of fun to watch her.
Oh, yeah.
Because she had actors up there that had never watched Doctor Who. So she had to try to explain what the doctor was doing and why.
Yeah, which amazes me because they both worked with Karen Gillan. So you'd think that discussion would have already happened with Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart.
Right.
That's true. I agree.
Okay, how are you liking Chibnall's handling as the showrunner now?
So far, I'm really enjoying it. I enjoyed pretty much all of last season. I mean, there were some that were stronger than others, which you're always going to have.
Right.
My least favorite thing he's done was what they did with the 2019 New Year's special, the Dalek episode. Resolution. Yeah, that was the name of it. I don't know why him and Stephen Moffat both seem to think that they should make changes to the Dalek history and how Daleks function. It's not needed. They work fine exactly the way they are. They are space Nazis. That's what the Daleks are. Use them that way, and an episode is great. Now, that said, there was some really good stuff in that special. There were some great character moments with Ryan and Ryan's dad and Graham. A really great scene with Ryan and his dad in the cafe talking, going back and forth, some really good camera work. And on top of that, just the camera work in general for last season and this season has just been phenomenal. The directors they've been getting for these have been great. The new anamorphic lenses they've been using, the show looks spectacular. The special effects and visual effects have all been great. And Segun Akinola's music has just been wonderful. So they're definitely on an uptick as far as production values are concerned, and I think it's getting treated properly. I just wish we'd get more than 10 episodes a year. Or, I'm sorry, 10 episodes every other year.
The music has been spectacular. And it's one of those that fits every scene. They're able to manipulate the music to correspond with the scene, and that's become a lost art in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and again, they've kind of gone back to the classics. A lot of what Segun Akinola does with the music is all, electronic synthesizer based stuff. They're not doing like the full, the full orchestra like they were with Murray Gold's stuff. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Murray Gold's music. It's great. But after, 15 years, it's nice to have a little bit of a change to it now. And you guys said you hadn't seen tonight's episode, right? So,
right.
Yeah, well, we won't touch that.
Yeah, okay.
But since you've been privy to it, I'm sure that they're going to make twists right away. And, for one, I hope they do. Because to me, that makes it a top-notch series. So, I'm not asking you to do so, but do so. No. Is is the new episode to your liking? Does it expand the realm any further than it is now?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't touch on anything that was brought up in Spyfall. It doesn't go into any of the Timeless Child or any of the stuff that the Master found out that the Ancients of Gallifrey lied to them and all that kind of stuff. It is a completely kind of standalone episode. But it was quite good, and as the cast had stated in the review after Spyfall, or the interview after Spyfall, the monsters are, I mean, they look like something you would get in a feature horror movie. They look great.
Wow.
And I'm amazed to see that on, early evening BBC TV. They look really good. I mean, like, these will terrify children.
Whoa.
And it's proper atmospheric, not like the 80s Doctor Who, everything was lit by floodlights. There's good lighting. It's all filmed properly, like a nice, good horror movie. So it's a nice variation. I didn't see the trailer for next week, but I'm gonna go catch that when we get done recording, so I know what that's gonna look like. But all I saw was a Statue of Liberty, and then it stopped. So.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was enticing. I got to go watch the trailer. And I'm willing to bet that it's not a Weeping Angel anymore, because that was just stupid. All right, I'm gonna try and limit my Moffat bashing.
You just touched on it a little bit. The cryptic message that the Master left the Doctor regarding that their lives are based on lies.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that? Do you believe him, or what's your thoughts just in general, or have you thought about it?
I have given it some thought. I'm very interested to see where they go with it. Based on what we know of the ancient Gallifreyans, particularly, Rassilon and Omega, I could very easily see them doing something horrific and covering it up and making them look like the good guys. Mm-hmm. In fact, in the books and the Big Finish audios, we've found out that has happened quite a few times. So it certainly wouldn't surprise me that there's something else out there that may be even worse than we already know. And there's some Big Finish audios that deal with how Rassilon used to basically, use the Matrix to predict if any other species was ever going to rival the Time Lords. And if he found one, what he would do is he would go back and basically take their origin, spin it off into its own separate divergent timeline, and lock it away so that they could never threaten the Time Lords. And apparently he did this a lot.
Wow.
Sounds like a charming guy.
Yeah, so I mean, if we're going based off of that kind of stuff, yeah, there's no telling what horrible stuff the ancient Time Lords could have done that I would be more than willing to buy. They aren't, the grandiose people the Doctor always talks about.
Right.
I mean, they even alluded to that at the end of time, where he was talking about how they were just basically going to go and wipe everything out and evolve into energy.
Yeah, and if the Master has discovered something, I mean, there's no doubt that he's going to throw it in the Doctor's face anyway. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good point.
What about the previous Doctors? Were you enthralled by some of the stories that they told? Mainly the 11th and 12th?
Yeah, I mean, they've all had good stories. They've all had mediocre and bad stories. It's a matter of outweighing the good with the mediocre and bad. But I loved Capaldi's Doctor. I thought he was an amazing doctor. He was perfectly cast for it. And he had some pretty good stories. He also had a few not so good stories.
Yeah.
I mean, his pilot story with, the episode titled Pilot, not that good a story. It was a great introduction to Bill and a great reintroduction to Nardole and the Doctor. Main villain was horrible because it was basically super intelligent engine oil that apparently could travel anywhere in space and time.
It's kind of a nice throwback to some of the early stuff, but anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, as a story, I mean, basically the story was there to introduce the new characters, and they kind of squeezed in this creature thingy to keep the kids interested. And it was very obvious that's what they did. Same thing can basically be said about Matt Smith's first story. Great introduction to Matt Smith. I loved his portrayal of the Doctor. Great introduction to Karen Gillan's character. Main villain, Prisoner Zero. Terrible. That was silly. And the giant eye snowflake spaceship things. That was horrible.
Well, if you describe it like that, I mean, gosh, no, I'm kidding.
That's what it was. But beyond that story was actually fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. They had some good jokes in it, but it was very goofy, very aimed at the kids, not the adults. That said, Matt Smith had some really good episodes. That first season he had was pretty phenomenal. Moffat did a really good job of plotting out that whole season, and then at the end when he seals up the crack, there's the whole Matt Smith going back, doing the reruns, going back through, seeing the cracks seal up and interacting with his own past. That was extremely well done. Unfortunately, after that season, it felt like Moffat had worked up to that point and then had nothing to go beyond that. In the next couple seasons, you kind of saw that. And he was, in Series 7, he was working towards the 50th anniversary, which was spectacular. I love the 50th anniversary special. Great piece of cinema. They managed to squeeze another Doctor in without it being too silly, where it actually kind of makes sense. We got the War Doctor because Eccleston didn't want to come back. So they did an amazing job of working around that. Honestly, I think it's better than in the 5 Doctors when they used footage of Shada to get Tom Baker in because he didn't want to come back.
Right.
We'll just create a whole new Doctor and fit him into the history. I thought that was quite ingenious. And, we got a regen from Paul McGann to the War Doctor and then from the War Doctor to Eccleston. So we got those 2 regen sequences on film that we'd never seen before. So I'll forgive a lot because of all that.
And we got John Hurt as a Doctor, too.
Oh, yeah. John Hurt was amazing. I mean, honestly, I've liked every Doctor. I think they've all brought something different to the table. Obviously, there's some that I prefer over others. I have my favorites, but I don't dislike any of them. And like I said, they've all got good stories. They've all got bad stories. They've all got mediocre stories.
And I'll agree with you on that because over the course of the past year or so, with Twitch doing the Doctor Who streams, they did it a couple of times, and then some of the online like Pluto TV shows some of the Doctor Who. So I was able to watch some of episodes that I had not caught before. And I actually have a greater appreciation of Colin Baker. Those early stories, I didn't particularly care for his portrayal. Mm-hmm. But, kind of watching those as you go forward, some of that kind of that harshness and as a matter of fact, the Doctor kind of does that. But, it kind of calmed down a little bit, and I kind of felt sorry for him, because especially knowing what was going on during the time those episodes were being made. So I have a better appreciation of what he did.
Well, that was always how he intended to play the Doctor. He wanted him to be very brash and unlikable up front, and then to evolve into a more likable character, which is exactly what they did with Capaldi. I mean, he's pretty nasty his first season.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. That's a fair point.
And then they soften him up, and by the time he gets to his final series, he's the, goofy uncle that you want to hang out with. Yeah. But they just didn't give Colin Baker the freedom and the time to do it. He's gotten to evolve the character quite a bit in Big Finish. He's actually one of the more popular Doctors in the Big Finish audios.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to look at his coat when it's audio.
That helps, yes.
They also gave him the blue coat in the audios, where it's the same style of coat, but it's just all blue,
all
dark blue and light blue.
Shades of blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure that would improve that coat that much, but okay.
I've seen, I don't know if some of the comic strips or something but I've seen it where they've done the blue coat.
Mm.
And refresh my memory. What was the deal with that? I can't remember right now.
I think it came, and this is just working on very vague memory at this point.
Right.
But I think it came about when they did a webcast with the Sixth Doctor in it that was flash animated, and it was going to be almost impossible to animate his original coat.
Right.
So they came up with this blue coat that was way easier to animate. And everybody liked it, so it kind of moved into the comics, and Big Finish started using it on some of their cover art. But that, as I recall, that's where that originated from.
Okay.
Which makes sense, because I can't imagine having to draw and animate that thing.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been horrible for the comic book guys, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what are you guys' favorite Doctors from any era?
Wes? Go first.
I would say the Christopher or the relaunch. I can't remember his last name.
Eccleston?
Yes, because we had missed the character so long, and this was a nice jumping on point for viewers, and I think that's probably what I enjoyed, because he brought a real goofiness to it, but he could play extremely serious toward the end. And as a result, to me, he was real strong, and I enjoyed that part.
Mikey?
All right. See, now I'm the odd man out here because I'm not as familiar with the new series as much.
It can be any series,
right?
Any actor, yeah.
Sure, but I mean, I don't want the fact that I'm going to go back to the old series to sway anybody or to make anybody send me hate mail or anything. I started watching with Tom Baker, and so he's the really easy answer. I mean, and honestly, 80% of people will name him anyway.
Oh yeah.
So because of that, I'm going to be a jerk and not name him. I actually really enjoyed Sylvester McCoy. I thought, well, one, like you said, Colin Baker just didn't go over well. And so he had I thought he did a pretty good job of sort of picking up and smoothing over some of the stuff, some of the damage that Colin had done. And he's just kind of that, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm biased towards a Happy Doctor. And he was kind of just happy and slightly goofy enough to be fun. I mean, pretty consistently. I mean, he could throw down when he needed to. He could get serious, but he always seemed to have the why mentality. Let's just have fun with this. Let's just run with it.
The next classic series Blu-ray box set to come out season 26, the final McCoy season.
Ooh, cool.
Good stuff.
You know, it's funny that you say that, Mike, because I had not watched I had not seen any of the McCoy stuff until the streaming access. And it's kind of funny that you talk about that, because I mean, I like him, and going back to what Carl you said earlier, but there were some really good stories and there were some that weren't. But the thing that really popped out to me watching those was how 80s the music was.
Yes, Kev McCulloch. Heavy 80s stuff.
It's, I mean, Classic Who had a unique music signature or style, whatever you want. I guess style would be a better word. But it seemed so much different during his run. It definitely it dates it really big time. Compared to the music for the previous Doctors.
Right, any of them. I won't argue with this. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. And the other thing is not only is McCoy one of my favorite Doctors, Perry is probably my least favorite companion. So I mean, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get specific with his performance in the role of the Doctor, while all the other crap is going on around him,
right? And
the whole thing's just kind of unraveling anyway. So, yeah.
But yeah, I like him too. Yeah. We've had this talk before, Carl, and it's kind of funny that we mention it now, because January this month marks the 50th anniversary of his first appearance as John Pertwee as the Doctor.
Yep.
My introduction to the Doctor was Tom Baker, and that was one that kind of grew on me a little bit. But there was something about him. There was something about John Pertwee. I don't know if it's kind of there was more of a heroic type of thing, where everybody else was more of a explorer, and of course that's probably because of the fact that the Doctor at that time was banished to stay on Earth instead of actually traveling the galaxy or time. But
which is great in terms of set design, honestly. But
well, that was the reason why that's the reason why they did it. It was BBC was trying to save money, and they were already increasing the budget by actually making the shows in color, which this marks the 50th anniversary of them being in color for the first time. I mean, I like them all. But I will definitely stop down for Pertwee. Pertwee's regeneration in the Baker, I always shed a tear or two, even to this day. I mean, I always get sad when I see the previous version die or transform into the new one, but Pertwee's always makes me make me shed a tear or two.
Yeah, he's my favorite. Like I said, I like all of them, but when I want to go back and just watch something, I pop in a John Pertwee. And in fact, I would say my favorite story of Doctor Who is probably Inferno, which is in his first season. It's just a really solid story, some good monsters, some great acting in it, interesting concepts, and very, very little incidental music. I mean, if you watch it, pay attention, because most of the time there is no incidental music. It's just the sound of the drill heading towards the center of the Earth.
Right.
just the constant background noise that's there the whole time. And, back to that they made him Earthbound to save money, right? And that was going to save on sets and everything, except every time you go to Unit HQ, it's a different set. How did that save them any money?
Well, if you're just cannibalizing sets from other shows, it's not a big deal, but yeah.
I know that's almost got to be what they were doing. It's just using a set from whatever show and film before them for the Unit HQ. So I've been trying to figure that out for years. I'm like, every time they show the unit base outside, and every time they show the unit garage or his lab at unit, it's a different set every time. But yeah, I've always loved Jon Pertwee's stuff, especially that first season of him with Liz Shaw. There's only 4 stories that season because 3 of them were 7-parters, and 1 was a 4-parter, but they're all good, solid stories. The 4-parter is the weakest one.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder what the modern audience would do with a 7-part episode at this point.
Well, I mean, we kind of got an idea with Twitch, right? Because everybody loved it on Twitch. And you talked about that earlier, Thomas. I loved all 3 times they had Twitch marathons for classic Doctor Who this year. They ran through everything except for certain Dalek episodes twice, basically.
Right.
Because they didn't have the streaming rights for those Dalek episodes. Then they got the streaming rights for the Dalek episodes, so they ran through those over a weekend. And it was just awesome to see all these people's reactions, all these, young kids and people that had never seen Doctor Who before, watching it with, this giant group of people and everybody commenting on it, and just to see the love for the show.
Oh, yeah.
Even these classic old goofy stories, some of them, people just loved them. You were just talking about Jon Pertwee's regeneration story, The Planet of Spiders.
Yeah.
And I just loved it when you get to the scene near the end of it when, the spiders are going crazy, screaming, all hail the Great One, or all praise the Great One. And the Twitch feed was just solid for like 5 minutes, just everybody saying that over and over.
Saying the same thing, yep.
All praise the Great One, just thousands and thousands of times. I was like, this is fantastic.
As someone who literally watches Twitch every day for a couple hours or so, Twitch chat there's times where it can be bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're a female streamer. I mean, the harassment and all that. Mm-hmm. But there's times where it's great. That was one. It's always great watching the Bob Ross marathons and watching the Twitch chat there, because they're always having fun with it. And there's always jokes like, "Hey Bob, why aren't you noticing chat?" Or, the painting's ruined, and 2 seconds later it's been saved, and stuff like that. It can be funny. It's kind of a great experience, kind of watching that.
Oh yeah, and it's funny to see people, younger people watching stuff like that. Like in the Doctor Who Twitch, when they got to Planet of the Curse of Peladon, and there's one guy off to the side going, "This is clearly a commentary on Brexit." I'm like, no, it was a political commentary on issues going on at the time, but that was 40 years ago. It has nothing to do with Brexit.
Right.
It, in fact, had issues with joining the European Union and things like that. So,
See, and I would be waiting for jokes about exercise bicycles. So
Yeah. Well, and then there were the memes from between each episode. They played the little coming up on Doctor Who thing where they were showing clips from that Doctor and everything, and everybody would meme everything in those, right. And just seeing those memes go by, and when that part would actually happen in an episode, people would like, he's gonna say the thing, he said the thing, and they just go crazy. That was awesome.
It is.
Sorry?
I said, yeah, it was. It was.
Especially since I'm such a big Third Doctor fan, the whole there's a scene in the Sea Devils where he's fighting the Master, and he's doing his Venusian Aikido, and he screams out this sound, and it sounds like he screams IKEA.
Right.
so they keep putting IKEA off the side on the chat. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's like a minute or so. Just it's a solid block of that phrase. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love about Doctor Who fandom. It's extremely accepting to new members, and everybody just has fun with it.
I would love for them to do that again. I wonder if they will.
Oh yeah, I keep hoping that they will. I'm almost wondering if it's a thing with BritBox or not. But BritBox was already around when they did the first stream, so I don't see that'd be a problem. Because it'd be nice to see the Dalek episodes in with the others, and stream them all through in order.
That was the thing that was very impressive. Is they did do them in order.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that was cool. It's if they did something similar, or when Mystery Science Theater 3000 got their own channel here, they showed all those in order, or at least the ones they had the streaming rights to. Because there's some that they can't even, they don't have the rights to actually do them, even put them on DVD, much less air them now. So that was pretty cool. Kind of go back and watch the original episodes before they moved to Comedy Central, or they were picked up by Comedy Central. It's kind of seeing this again.
There's a lot of those things. There's like 10 or 11 seasons.
Yeah, something like that.
That's. I mean, each one's a movie, so yeah, that's a lot. And I'd love for Twitch to do it again. I know they started doing a Sci-Fi Saturday thing, but I think they only did that for like 2 or 3 months, and then they stopped doing it. They did all the Torchwoods one weekend. And that was fun. That was the first time I'd watched Children of Earth since it originally aired, because that's kind of a tough watch.
Yeah,
It was a tough watch.
Yeah, I mean it's really, really good, but it's a hard watch.
And let's make it known that it was a hard watch because of the story.
Yeah.
To me, it wasn't that it was bad. It was just heart-wrenching.
Oh, yeah. No, I consider Children of Earth to be probably the 5 best hours of TV ever. But, yeah, just because of how heart-wrenching it is, it's brutal to watch it. But It is extremely good TV. And that's saying something, because the first 2 seasons of Torchwood, they were fun, but they weren't all that great.
Yeah, they didn't get deep until the final episode of that first season. Second season kind of was filler for the end of that. That season. But I've always been a fan of that show.
Oh yeah, I liked it. Like I said, the first 2 seasons were fun. They weren't that good, but they were fun.
Yeah.
And then Children of Earth was just amazing. And I liked Miracle Day. It wasn't anywhere near as good as Children of Earth, but I definitely enjoyed it. I thought, and I can't remember the actor's name now. He played Lone Star.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman?
Bill Pullman, yes, thank you. I want to keep saying Patterson, but yeah, Bill Pullman. He did a fantastic job as the bad guy in that. He was really good at playing that creepy dude.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit of a turn for him to, because normally he plays kind of the nice guy.
True.
And then to go that route, that was a stretch, but he pulled it off very nicely.
Dude can act.
Oh yeah, he's got chops. But yeah, so have you guys been liking, like series 11 and 12 so far?
Yes. Yes, I've been in on that. It's great fun.
Yep, I've been enjoying it.
Is there anything that you guys would like to see them do with the show?
Maybe never end. To me, it's a series that could go on for an eternity.
That's the brilliance of the regeneration.
Right. Speaking about that, I was reminded the other day of the comic relief aired several years ago of Doctor Who. You remember this? With Rowan Atkinson and
yes.
Jonathan Pryce?
Yeah.
Curse of the Fatal Death.
There you go. and how long ago was that? Remind me, do you remember? Was it like
that was... Ooh.
I'll have to go back.
I want to say it was late 90s.
Yeah.
Maybe 2000, somewhere in that area.
What's so funny is, and we may need to put a link in our show notes for I'm sure because the videos, I'm sure we can find the video.
Oh, yeah, it's on YouTube.
Is it on YouTube? Okay, I'm sure. I can get that for you, Mikey. What I remember was they mentioned that Atkinson was the 9th Doctor. Then he burns through 10, 11, and 12. And then 13 was a female. It was Joanna Lumley.
Yeah.
And like you said, this was late 90s. And here we are in 2020, the 13th Doctor is female.
Yeah, it was March 1999.
Okay. I'm like...
Makes you wonder if they were looking at that going, hey...
Well, I mean, it's been looked at before. It's one of those things that always kind of comes up. John Nathan Turner had mentioned it at one point. No one ever knows if it was a joke or not, but he had brought it up in the 80s. I mean, Moffat wrote Curse of the Fatal Death, and he gave us Missy, which was the female master, and everything in Series 10 was kind of leading up to get everybody ready for the fact that the next Doctor was going to be a woman. Not that I think we needed it to be, spoon-fed to us like that, but apparently some fans did because a lot of people got upset about it.
Right.
I don't understand that, but
I love that. I assume at least they're all quiet now.
No. Now, it's like any fandom, the ones that get really irritated are never quieted. Yeah.
Dang it. I was hoping.
Yeah, but I mean, we all ignore them at this point.
Right. Just like all the other fandom issues we have, right?
And just tell them to shut up and sit down. Either watch the show and enjoy it or don't watch the show. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't ruin the previous one, so if that's what y'all want, then there they are. I mean,
exactly. They're all available on streaming and DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So go watch the ones you like and don't worry about the ones you don't like.
Yep.
That's kind of the beauty of Doctor Who. I mean, if you don't like the current Doctor or showrunner, wait a few years and check back. It'll be a different one. That's the beauty of the show.
Well, let me ask you this, Carl. Who is your favorite companion?
That's a toughie.
I know it's much more vast in number.
Yeah. There's a lot I really like. I'm gonna have to say, though, that it's really hard to pick between 3 that I'm thinking of. One is Dr. Elizabeth Shaw from the 3rd Doctor, first season. I always liked her just because, she was an extremely intelligent, capable scientist that didn't take any of the Doctor's crap.
Okay.
Or the Brigadiers, for that matter. And she was there. That first season, the Doctor and the Brigadier are kind of at each other's throats a lot, too. So she's kind of there, holding the peace between them, basically, while not taking anything off of either one of them. So I always liked that. And then the other 2 I'm thinking of, I go back to the original team and it's a tie between Ian and Barbara. because Barbara was always figuring things out and solving issues, and Ian was the one that always got stuck with doing all the dirty work and heavy lifting, and the doctor making fun of him by not remembering his name, and calling him Chatterton and, Chesterfield and all these things. And he just took it with humility, But I think I'm going to go with Liz Shaw.
Okay.
Which is probably part of the reason why I love season 7 so much, because that's the season with her and the Third Doctor.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect pairing. Oh, no, wait, hold on. But then you have Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's hard to beat.
Yeah, I would have to pick Sarah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough call, but yeah, I'm going to have to go with Sarah Jane.
I was going to go with Sarah Jane. Yeah.
I like Liz, but I mean, if nothing, I hate to throw this out there, but Sarah was there longer.
Well, there's that. She was also with the third and the fourth Doctors.
Right. She was at least good at getting into trouble, as opposed to some of the others who would just walk into it without even trying. I mean.
Well, and again, she was also a very competent person, right? I mean,
totally.
There's like the Pyramids of Mars where he's like, we don't have detonators for the Juggernaut, and she's like, well, we could shoot it. And he's like, well, do you know how to fire a gun? She goes, sure. She knows how to fire a hunting rifle. It's no problem. I was like, that's great. And she does it in like this Edwardian long frilly dress thing. I was like, that's awesome. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with Sarah Jane Smith. But, yeah.
How about you, Les?
Well, he really wasn't a companion, but I felt like he was because he was major in the storyline. And that was, now I can't think of her. Bernard Crimmins' character.
Oh, Wilfred Mott, yeah.
Yes, because he was not only major in the TV series, but he was major in the movie, too, if I'm recalling correctly.
Oh, yeah, he was in the Dalek Invasion of Earth 2150 AD movie with Peter Cushing as the Doctor. Yeah, he played the Ian role. Can't remember the character's name. He was a police sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all these years later, they bring him back as Donna's grandfather. And Bernard Cribbins is awesome.
That's why I enjoyed him. He was so fascinating. The character was so good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as horrible as The End of Time is, and let's be honest, it's really bad, he is awesome in it, and I still tear up when he's having that talk with the Doctor in both the spaceship and in the cafe, the two different talks he has with the 10th Doctor about the Doctor not dying and all that. That still brings a tear to my eye every time. When Bernard Crimmins starts crying, you don't let an 80-plus-year-old man cry on his own.
That's just bad form right there.
Exactly, and he's just so awesome. But he's the best part of that two-parter, which is quite frankly terrible. He makes it watchable.
I agree.
I mean, we have to deal with that David Tennant I don't want to go line. But Bernard Cribbins is awesome. So did you notice, did you guys see An Adventure in Space and Time, the 50th anniversary docudrama they did on the creation of Doctor Who?
Yes.
And, when William Hartnell's there and he says, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
They work that line in there. I teared up when he said it. I got angry when Tennant said it. It's all in the delivery.
Yeah.
And we had Sacha Dhawan in that, too. He was playing Waris Hussein, the first director of Doctor Who.
So it comes around full circle.
Yep. which had to be creepy for him because Waris Hussein was actually there the days he was filming. Watching him play him.
That's not uncomfortable or anything, right?
Right.
But I love that special. That special was awesome. That whole 50th anniversary year right there at the end was just spectacular. Not only for the show, but for fandom itself. Did any of you guys go to Who Fest in Dallas?
I did not.
No.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
So Les, you were there. So yeah, I mean they got the hotel to purchase BBC America because they were doing the live stream of the 50th anniversary episode. And they set up several rooms where everybody could go and sit and watch it with the live stream, across the planet all at the same time. And they even shut down the dealers' room so the dealers could go and watch it with everybody else. It was just fantastic. I was in a room with probably 600 people watching that thing.
Wow. That's very cool.
It was great. I had a crick in my neck because I had to sit sideways to see around the people in front of me, but it was worth it. That's what fandom should be. Not a bunch of people griping on the internet about a female doctor or, the deflector shield thingy on the Millennium Falcon's rectangle now, not circular. That's not what fandom's about.
Right.
It's about coming together and sharing your love for the thing you all love.
I agree. As far as Who Fest, that has gone by the wayside, has it not?
Last I heard, yes, they had discontinued it.
That is a shame because that was fun for me to spend some time with a lot of different fans.
Oh yeah, I loved going to that convention every year. That was one of the highlights of my year, was going to that one because my wife and I vend at conventions. And that's the one where basically I help her set up and then I'm like, okay, I'll see you at the end of the show. And I just disappear and have fun.
Yeah, it looks like the last one was in 2017.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it's been that long.
Yeah. It just wasn't, apparently they weren't getting the turnout that they were needing to keep it running. So, we still have FenCon, though.
Go ahead.
And that's a good show. FenCon is mainly a literary and filking con, but they have stuff on, Stargate and Star Trek and Doctor Who and Star Wars and all your big franchises, basically. It's a fun little show to go to. It's not too big, so you can, get into everything easily, not have to stand in giant lines or anything.
What would you like to see for Doctor Who in the road ahead?
What I would like to see, beyond wherever they're going with this timeless child and everything's a lie, what I would really like to see them do is occasionally do a true historical episode. No alien monster back in history, just actual historical episode with nothing sci-fi in it except for the Doctor, her friends, and the TARDIS. I miss those. And I know the reason they think they have to throw the invisible chicken thing in it, like in Vincent and the Doctor. They think they got to throw some alien monster or menace in it because it'll keep the kids interested. When I was a kid, and I'm talking, like 8, 12 years old, watching the first and second Doctor and seeing all these historical episodes like the Aztecs and stuff, those quite often were my favorite episodes. I loved seeing that stuff and how the Doctor and their companions were going to get out of it and things like that without actually impacting history. I don't see why they don't think kids would be interested in that.
I mean, even if not, then would it still kill them to every so often do it anyway? I mean, come on.
You wouldn't think so. You'd think it would be a draw to the adults. And I mean, the original mandate of the show, right, was to, entertain and educate.
Mm-hmm.
And they got pretty close last year with Demons of the Punjab and Rosa. Those were the closest to true historicals that we've seen in a couple decades. But you still had, like, the time traveler from the future in Rosa that was trying to stop, the event from happening. And in Demons of the Punjab, you had the aliens that were there, that the Doctor thought were there to kill people, but they were actually there to witness their deaths. So they didn't really have any impact on history, the aliens that were there. So that was really, really close to a true historical. They literally had no impact. They were there to watch, just like the audience was. And those are considered, like, by general fan wisdom, to be the 2 best episodes last year. So maybe we can get a little more closer to that, but I don't see it happening.
We just have to hope that eventually they figure out why.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we do appreciate you going into this, Carl. Do enjoy this, and we'll definitely have you back on again real soon. I do have one final question. I know Troy and Jeremy were talking about doing a new podcast. Were you going to be a part of that, or what's the status on that? Do you know?
No, I was not going to be a part of that.
Okay.
I think it's just going to be between the 2 of them, and I don't know that they've hashed out the final details of it yet.
Okay.
I mean, if they ever want to have me on as a guest, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I'm happy to come back anytime you guys want me on to discuss more Doctor Who stuff.
Do you miss doing the podcast?
Sometimes. Sometimes it is just life happens, and a lot of the times I just don't have the time for a regular one.
Right.
But like I said, I'm more than happy to jump on every once in a while when you guys want to have a special discussion and an in-depth discussion on something that I can add something to. I'm more than happy to jump on and talk Doctor Who anytime with anybody.
Sure. Well, we do thank you for joining us, man. Loved it.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks, Carl.
All right.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and I lead off this week. And since we are one person short, we will be doing 3 picks. Yay! Okay, for my first pick, I am going with Wonder Woman 750. Obviously, this is from DC Comics. A ton of writers and artists are on this one. Obviously, this is a pretty big book in terms of pages, and of course, being issue 750. Yeah, it's 96 pages actually.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, congratulations to the book hitting 750. And I'd definitely check it out just for all the names that are on here. Marguerite Bennett, Steve Orlando, Greg Rucka, and Gail Simone come back for the anniversary book. Just get it. I mean, it's an anniversary. The covers are great. They're doing the same thing they did with Action Comics 1000 and Detective Comics 1000, and which is doing a variant for each decade, and the covers are phenomenal. So definitely, just get this for just the fact that it's an anniversary book. I know the leading story, it ties into the Year of Villains that they've been doing for a year. So unfortunately, I have not been a part of that. So, but still, I'm going to get it just because of all the names that are tied to the book, and there's going to be 4 or 5 other stories that are there as well, which will be great to read. So definitely pick it up.
Yep, sounds good.
Same here. I love it.
All right, Les, you're next.
My first choice comes from It's Alive Publishing. It's Air War Stories number 2. This is a comic that focuses on aerial war battles and it's illustrated by Sam Glanzman, who is a nominee for Eisner Award. He was a World War II vet, and to me that just says a lot. Glanzman has done a lot of different comics for Marvel and DC, among others, and just even the cover of this magazine is superb. So here's another title to get just because of the covers.
Yeah, I remember encountering the first issue, and the name rang a bell, so I did research, and yeah, it looks really, really good, so definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Mike.
Okie dokie. So my first pick is from Action Lab Comics. I kind of feel like I haven't picked much from them lately, but that's all right. I'm going to make up for it here. They have a new book coming out called Twin Worlds. This is issue number 1, and this is it looks like it's teen. It's a teen. Maybe it's teen plus. Oh yeah, it says mature readers right there. Oh, okay. Anyway, but this looks like a really cool sci-fi fantasy type story. This is like space opera to the max. You've got humans colonizing the galaxy. You've got aliens starting some crap with the human colonists, and you've got a bunch of just awesome, cool story stuff going on. The deal is I'm looking at this blurb they've got for it, and it's a really long blurb with a lot of not normal words in it, so trying to process it's a little tricky. But there's a whole bunch of great sci-fi stuff happening here. I think this is gonna be a really exciting one.
That was on my radar. I'm kind of interested in that one.
Same here.
Okay, I guess it's my turn again. So for my second choice, I'm going with a new miniseries from IDW Publishing. And we see Eric Burnham and Dan Schoening reunite for Ghostbusters Year 1. To kind of get you ready for the new movie that sees most of the old gang come back together. This story takes place after the events of the first film, and the story, the synopsis talks about a publisher deciding to do a biography on the Ghostbusters, and the first issue kind of features Winston Sedmore. So, I've dug the stories that they put out. So it'd be kind of great to actually see the original Ghostbusters again, and like I said, kind of get you ready for the upcoming movie. So it should be fun.
Yep, sounds cool.
I think so.
Alrighty, Les.
My second choice is D-Day: Storming Fortress Europe. This is a graphic novel written by Jack Chambers, illustrated by Esteve Poles. It's a self-described story of the landing on June 6th, and then the march inward to Germany. So you have a sense of what it was like for the soldiers to exit their craft and then step forward to the glory of the winning of the Second World War. I'm in on this because I do love a good telling of a war story, and this has got to be some pretty solid stuff.
Yeah, this is cool. I was not aware before this that Osprey's doing or getting into graphic graphic novels or comics or however they want to look at it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
they've been doing great history stuff for a long time now. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Okay, Mikey.
Okie dokie. My second pick is I always get a little fuzzy whether to call it a trade or a graphic novel. We'll call it a trade just for now. But this is from Titan Books, and I am picking The Chronicles of Hawkmoon, Volume 2, The History of the Runestaff. This says it's published for the first time ever, which I didn't realize this hadn't been published before. But Hawkmoon is a Michael Moorcock story, or setting, or however you want to look at it. It is kind of a fun, again, kind of sci-fi fantasy type mashup type thing. This is I will partially quote this: in a post-apocalyptic world scoured by monsters and men. The hero Dorian Hawkmoon is here to face down the Dark Empire and its immortal emperor. It's really hard to go wrong with Michael Moorcock anyway. Everything I've seen, all the comics adaptations I've seen of his stuff have been really awesome. So here's another one.
Very cool.
I think you're right, because Moorcock does such good work that bringing it to comics has been successful. And that makes a big difference.
Yep.
All right. So one final round. I am next. So for my third choice, I am going with a trade from DC Comics, and this has come out before, but this is not exactly in this particular type of collection, because it actually has a lot more issues collected here, and it's called Justice League International, Volume 1, Born Again, and this collects Justice Leagues 1 through 6, Justice League International 7 through 17, Justice League Annual 1, Justice League International Annual 2, and Suicide Squad 13. And this is the early years of the post-Legends run of the book, where was being written by Keith Giffen, J.M. DeMatteis, and art by Kevin Maguire. This is the Bwahaha run of Justice League. Well,
How was that again?
Wahaha.
Okay, thank you.
Why don't you say it? How do you say it?
No, you got it right.
You nailed it.
Oh, good. Where eventually the team became a part of the United Nations and had embassies around the world and all that. So it's a fun read. This is the stories that brought you the One Punch. If you're familiar with that particular term, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Definitely pick it up. You will not regret it. It's a fun read, and I would love to read it again.
Cool. Yeah, that might be interesting to check out, especially if you are one of those that it's like you've heard of the Justice League, but you want to get started with them. This might be a good place to jump in there.
That was a solid choice, Thomas.
Okay, Les, you are next.
My third choice also comes from DC Comics. This is one of their 100-page comics, Birds of Prey Giant #1. I'm impressed with this because before I had spoken of the 100-page giants. This one includes 3 new stories and 3 reprint stories, and each are a lot of fun. You've got, 6 different writers, probably 6 different arts. So step in and try this out. This will give you an idea of what's going to be coming your way on the screen here in a few months. So try it out, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
Much sooner than a few months. It's actually going to be next month, February. February's when we're going to see Birds of Prey and Harley. So yeah, this will definitely get you ready.
Oh my God, I've got to get my ticket now.
Yeah, you got to get your tickets now, man. Alrighty, Mike.
Okie dokie. My third pick is from Dynamite Entertainment. And I am picking the first issue of Red Sonja, Age of Chaos. And I don't know, I feel like I say it a lot, that Dynamite has got some interesting ideas for crossover events, and they have been really pulling them off well. And some of them are just like surprising and out there. This one is a little bit out there in my opinion, but I like both of these properties just enough to think this is awesome. So yeah, we've got Red Sonja, and she's getting tired of killing Kulan Gath, who is the wizard who he keeps coming back from the dead, and he's very consistent about this. But she's done, and she's decided she's going to find a way to stop this. And the gang from the Chaos books just might, you could just see them falling in their own inimitable way. So I am looking forward to seeing how they just find a way to mesh these things together. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be.
And boy, do they have a lot of variant covers for this sucker. Holy cow.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that before airing, before start recording. So yeah, there's a few.
I'd have to take out a bank loan to get all the covers.
And it's the thing that's, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of covers, but some of them are just so pretty. It really sucks because you'd look at the covers that are available for this, and you're like, man, I want like 8 or 9 of those, and that's not even all of them. But anyway, I digress. A lot of covers. Shouldn't be hard to find one you like.
I agree. All right. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
Well, I feel bad, but I would feel even worse if I didn't mention. We've had a couple of passings in the last week. Oddly, the one that has probably hit me the hardest was Neil Peart. He was the prodigious drummer from the Canadian band Rush. And I think the reason this one hit me hard was because he died of cancer at an age which he should not have had to worry about that. But it's a tough one. I mean, he had retired a few years ago, and the band kind of stopped to accommodate him. But yeah, he's gone now, and obviously condolences to his family and friends and bandmates, and he's very much going to be missed. He's an awesome drummer.
Yeah, this one hurts. Yep. You mentioned there was a couple of others. Buck Henry passed away this prior week.
Yep.
Writer of Graduate, co-creator of Get Smart, was there the early days of Saturday Night Live as a writer, and did some performance. I remember Les and I talking about last night. He mentioned the samurai sketches with John Belushi. It was always against Buck Henry.
Buck Henry was a straight man.
Yep.
Yep, another sad one. He made a lot of people laugh.
Yep.
And he did a lot of it from the background too, which sometimes that happens. But
right. Les, any shout-outs to you?
Nothing that I can think of, but thanks.
I want to mention a couple things that I just want to put out there for most of you listeners. This is not going to mean much, and I'm sorry, but because it has more of a local
impact.
Thank you for the word. Earlier in the week, a longtime personality of DFW radio announced his retirement. I mean, he's been on the radio since the 70s. I pointed out to Les that he spent the last 26 years for The Ticket, which is the number one sports radio station here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Mike Reiner just, with no fanfare or anything like that, he was supposed to come back from having time off for the holidays and start back on the radio and all that. But he released a video saying, it's been a fun ride, but I'm calling it quits. I'm going to move on to the next thing, and y'all take it easy. I love this sports radio station. We don't really talk a lot of sports in here, obviously. But this means a lot to me because I catch myself using a lot of the phrases that he's echoed on the airwaves for years, and I'm sure Les has caught some of it. I don't know how much Mike has caught because I don't know how much he's actually listened to the station, but I'm sure even some of you that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who listen to us and have heard me say some of these things. So obviously he's been kind of an influence. I love learning things from him. He was very entertaining. I will miss him. It is truly an end of era. As I pointed out to Les, there's only 2 on-air personalities, or really any of them from day one of The Ticket from 1994. There's only 2 left. I mean, everybody else is gone. And I'm talking about like board operators and engineers and obviously the behind-the-scenes people. They're all gone. It's down to 2 people, Craig Miller and George Dunham. That's it. So that's kind of amazing. It's amazing that they're still there 26 years later. But, good luck to him. And thank you for everything. The other thing I kind of wanted to mention is another one that's kind of a local impact. Was the passing of with Bill Weisner, who, of course, most of y'all wouldn't know. He was the owner and ran Bill's Records here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And yes, there was a record store still going. He had this store for 40 years and ran it every day. And it's supposedly the last record store in Dallas, which probably is the case because, I mean, I don't know where else you can find one other than.
I believe it, honestly.
Yeah. From what I understood, he passed away somewhere Friday night, Saturday morning, in his store. He was found Saturday morning behind the counter, and I'm like, that's kind of cool that he was still surrounded by his passion. That's something that he loved to do. But it's sad too.
It sounds like that's kind of the way he wanted to go. If it was going to happen. So. So obviously our thoughts are with his family and loved ones and friends. So. Yeah, Bill's Records is kind of one of those places in Dallas where it was like it's one of those places that you want every major city to have. It's that awesome indie music store that every city should have one, and
right.
that was what Bill's was around here. So, yeah.
Okay.
We should probably also say thanks to Carl for hanging out with us and talking Doctor Who.
Definitely. Thank you, Carl. We really enjoyed it and love to have you back on again real soon. And we'll definitely make that happen. So, yeah, definitely shout out to him. On that note, we will go on to our regular shout outs. First off, Pop Goes Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of podcasts. Definitely check their shows out. You can find a link in our show notes. And we also encourage you to check out our fellow brother and sister podcasters that make up Podern Family on Twitter. Just go over to the site and do a search, #Podern Family, and just scroll through the list, and whatever catches your fancy, just click on that link, download that episode, and check those fine people out. We definitely appreciate your support as always. I also want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. We have a link in our show notes for you to check out some of their music. Thank you guys as always. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support as always. We value your feedback. If you have a comment, question, suggestion, complaint, observation, what have you, we're always willing to listen to you. And there are several ways you can contact us. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a form there that you can fill out, and we will get that information. I already mentioned earlier, we have a Facebook page, The Fellowship of the Geeks. Feel free to follow us there, and we do have the Facebook events set up for our meet and gabs. So if you're interested or plan on attending, definitely go there and select the appropriate selection. We're obviously on Twitter. @FellowshipGeeks is our name. So by all means, follow us. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, you can do that. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And wherever you find our episodes, if you could please rate and review us, it would be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening, folks.
Thank you once again for listening. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,